You guys are not even ready for the amount of destruction that Alioth is about to bring to this meta. This card is one of those cards that a lot of people talk about. They start planning and saving those spotlight caches, those tokens, for a card of this caliber because it's so hyped up by the community. We check out the data mines. It even gets nerfed significantly before its official release. So the data mine, it was originally a 5 cost, but now a card like this costs 6 because the ability is bonkers. So in this video, we're going to decide whether you should pick up this card despite its expensive price tag of being a Series 5 card at 6,000 tokens, or if you should pass and save for another day. So what is this card? It is Alioth, the mighty cloud. Monster cloud. I don't know the exact lore, but I watched season 1 of Loki and I really liked it. So here we have Alioth, 6/5. On reveal, destroy all enemy cards played here this turn, including unrevealed cards. That last line of text is everything. If it just destroyed all the cards that were played this turn, it would be a pretty good, tech option. It'd be a pretty good card, but you're not getting the same value that you're getting when you destroy unrevealed cards. Anything with an ongoing ability before, it's revealed, it's not going to happen. It doesn't matter. But even better, the on-reveals. Those on-reveals, like a Dr. Doom. If you hit Dr. Doom, he is not getting those Doom bots out, even if he is destroyed himself. So the potency of the power here is just through the roof. That said, there's still some counters. So in this video, we're going to go over some counters, some awesome deck lists that are brewed together. And honestly, I could have made so many. There's a lot of potential here. And then also some mechanics. I have a full page of mechanics because there's a lot to cover actually with this card. So it's very important to understand it before we go ahead and make our purchase, right? But let's quickly talk about, this Dan Hip Alioth, because that's the one that I'm grabbing because I cannot wait. It looks so good. But anyways, that's not what we got to talk about. We got to talk about the spotlight caches over there because it is a 6,000 token card. So whenever there's a 6,000 token card that I really want, I prefer to use my spotlight caches if available. And in this instance, we have Snowguard, the recently buffed Snowguard, where we can actually see and use the variant that comes with it. So this variant gets a bonus value, and it seems to be one of the better 1 costs right now in the game, especially paired with Loki. So not so bad anymore. I know people were down about it earlier on. And then you also got Hitmonkey, who was kind of nerfed, but he's still a very good card. The Dan Hip looks amazing. So I actually find there's pretty good value in this spotlight cache now compared to maybe last week before Snowguard's buff. And then of course you got the 1,000 tokens. So I think it's pretty decent. I'm going to be definitely going for this in my spotlight caches because 6,000 tokens is a bit steep. And the 2 cards that are coming later this month in Ravonna Renslayer and Mobius are only going to be Series 4 costing 3,000 tokens. So if you save up 6K, right, that you could use on this card, if you save that 6K, you can get both the cards in the coming weeks. I think that's a pretty solid economic strategy for this month, and that's what I'm going with. So let's get into the mechanics of Alioth because there is a lot to cover. All right, I'm going to do my best to kind of rip through this. This is all based on prior cards, right? Prior interactions that we have experienced with Marvel Snap. And, anything could change. There's a few here that I would almost put an asterisk because, it might not work this way, but my interpretation is as such. So Wolverine, Bucky Barnes, Colossus, Armor, Professor X, X-23. There's a lot of cards that fall under this category, but if they have yet to be revealed, so they are face down, Alioth is played, and it destroys unrevealed cards, they will be permanently destroyed. And what I mean by permanently is they're not going to respawn right away. So Wolverine won't just get +2 power and go to a different location, etc., etc. They're just going to be gone. They are not actually cards with their abilities, with their stat lines on the field until they are revealed, until they're flipped. The only exception of this that I know of is Null. Null can receive the power like he would any other destroyed card, despite it not revealing. So if you said, let's say you had a Tuma, right? 10 power card. You had a Tuma, it's face down, it got destroyed by Alioth. Well, Null's going to get the +10 power. He's just going to do it. I don't really know why he works that way. Whereas, let's say it was Nova that was destroyed. Nova's not going to explode and give +1 to the entire side of the board. But Null will still get the 1 power that Nova has. on its body. So it's kind of a weird interaction between those two, but we've seen this and then we know this because of Galactus destroying unrevealed cards. We also know that when unrevealed cards are destroyed, they are still considered destroyed and they will discount death. That's why death paired with Galactus is a really good idea, because usually in that last turn, your death is free because you destroyed a bunch of cards. If your opponent played a bunch of cards that turn, it's going to just further discount death, buff the null. It's really good synergy. And they can also be revived by Phoenix Force, because Phoenix Force pulls cards from the destroy pile, which they will enter. We have also seen this with Galactus plays. So there's a lot of Galactus Alioth, and you're going to hear me saying that a lot because turns out the two cards work really well together. So stay tuned. That might be a spoiler to an upcoming deck. But another thing is that Alioth, if it's played behind Invisible Woman or the Dark Dimension before the final turn, it will still only destroy cards played on the final turn. So let's say you have Invisible Woman, you play Wave elsewhere, it discounts the cards in your hand, you play Alioth behind Invisible Woman, and your opponent played a card there at the same turn. Now, of course, theirs isn't covered behind Invisible Woman, so it revealed and it showed and it was played, whatever on reveal happened. But then the end of the game is going to occur and Invisible Woman's going to reveal the cards behind her. Alioth isn't going to look back to that previous turn and destroy that card. He's not just like waiting there to be destroyed. Alioth is going to go ahead and check whatever was the last turn and destroy whatever was there. Okay, now here's another one that I honestly don't 100% know, so don't take this for fact, but this is my interpretation, is that if Alioth is moved prior to revealing, right, a Juggernaut effect pushing him over, or Arrow, it will destroy the cards of where it was originally played. So in a way, Arrow could actually be a nice counter, perhaps, because you pull away the Alioth, it will destroy whatever you played at the original location. So a better example is the Juggernaut, right? So Juggernaut pushes things away. Alioth would still destroy Juggernaut. That is my interpretation. It'll reach over to the lane that it was actually played and where the cards opposing it were actually played. Another thing is if a card is played, revealed at the Alioth location, then moved, Alioth will still destroy it in the other lane. So kind of like what I was saying previously, but it's reversed, right? So if player 1 has priority, your opponent plays Iron Fist and Vulture at the right location on the same turn at the right location. Well, then Iron Fist is going to punch Vulture to the mid, right? As we know, getting that +5 power. But we played Alioth on the right. We did not have priority, so Alioth now reveals, but Vulture's in the mid and Iron Fist is on the right, but both were played on the right. Well, Alioth is going to gobble them both up. Should destroy both of them. That is my interpretation. I don't believe that it registers only the things actively in its lane when it reveals. It is usually smart enough. These sorts of on reveals are smart enough to recognize the cards that were played at the lane whenever they were face down. When that order of the turn occurred, when it began, it registers, okay, those are the cards played and I'm going to destroy them no matter where they are. Anyways, that is a lot of the mechanics for Alioth. The only one that I am not 100% sure about is the movement with cards like Juggernaut, Arrow, and stuff. But we will find out. We will find out. If you guys want to see some science on that, we can do it. We can do it on this channel. So anyways, let's get to some pros and cons for Alioth. All right, so really quickly, what are some of the pros and cons? So basically, this establishes a checkmate scenario. What do I mean by that? Basically, going into the final turn, you have a guaranteed win with Alioth if you have met a few conditions, and I don't think the conditions are too difficult. They're inherent game mechanics that you just have to reach. For instance, priority, right? So you have to have priority in order to destroy the unrevealed cards. Then you also have to guess where it's going to be. So that's a bit of a con. That's why you have to choose the correct lane, but you can kind of establish that with things like Galactus, right? There's only one location you can't miss. Another one is like Professor X. It locks up one location. Then now you're in a 50-50, and maybe it doesn't matter where your opponent plays at the other location. You just want to win the Alioth location. So essentially, once you go into that final turn, you have priority. There's not armor there or Cosmo, because those are a few counters that will prevent Alioth's ability from occurring. So you got to watch out for that. But if they're not there, you have priority and you destroy those cards, you have guaranteed yourself a win. The only instance where I could see players winning against you is if they play something like White Tiger or Dr. Doom elsewhere to get power into the Alioth location. They avoid the destruction of Alioth, but they still get the same amount of power or more into Alioth's lane. That could be a problem, or like something like Blue Marvel, or any ways of getting power without actually playing cards there. But I think in a lot of scenarios, this is just going to be it. GG, you win especially, once again, Galactus. Man, you got to watch out. That's why at the bottom there, I got will frustrate many players. One of the worst combos I can think of in Marvel Snap's history was when players would play Galactus and then they would play Spider-Man after. So you would have to cheat out Galactus with like Wave, but that was easy. It was literally Wave, Galactus, and then Spider-Man in GG. Literally, the opponents could not play anything. Jeff wasn't even out, but it didn't even matter. There was too much power on the other side. It was brutal. So brutal. And it had a high cube win rate, and yeah, like you had to roll into a few cards to get there, but basically if you were retreating for 1 cube until you got the combo and then you were winning 2+, you were always net gaining cubes. So it was just wild. And then they reworked Spider-Man, so that kind of went away. They nerfed Galactus, or kind of reworked him. I don't know. I still don't know where I land on that, but he's a little bit more difficult to have his ability trigger. So is this going to be as potent? Is this going to be as bad as it was back in the day with the Wave Galactus Spider-Man combo, just Galactus Alioth, or Wave Galactus Alioth, or Electro Galactus Alioth, or Time Stone Galactus Alioth? There's a lot of potential. I think it's going to be strong. I think it's going to be back in some fashion. You're going to have to be aware of it. You're going to have to recognize if a list is a Galactus list, and if it is, you're going to that final turn. They have established the Galactus board where there's only one location and you don't have priority, which you probably don't because it was Galactus. You got to watch out. You basically got to retreat because Alioth might get thrown down, and that's it. Get out of there. Lastly, I think it's a very strong tech ability because essentially it's encompassing Cosmo, Enchantress, Shang-Chi, just all those things. If you manage to destroy the unrevealed card, because it doesn't matter what they played, it's gone. Alioth is just getting rid of it. It synergizes with a lot of things. There's so many deck list guys, like just a good card list or just anything like that. It's so good. Playing Wave on 5 to Alioth on 6, so strong. High cube rate potential, because this is like kind of that Shang-Chi effect of like just you thought you had the win, then all of a sudden no, like that final turn you got your big power play destroyed and you lose the game. So I feel like there's a lot of potential for a lot of cubes. And the downsides are just not that bad, like choosing the correct lane, but you can set up a scenario where you got to choose the right lane and it should be fine. Cards with reach, like I mentioned, like White Tiger. Low power to cost ratio, I'm literally just putting there because it's a fact, because if you're looking at a 6 cost, you kind of want like that 10+ power or something along those lines, even more than that, to be honest. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're not playing Alioth for the power necessarily. It's the effect that is so strong for this card. So yeah, I feel like there's just so many more pros than cons, and I just really feel like this is going to splash in the meta in some shape or form. But if it does enter the meta and you don't have it, or you didn't have the resources to acquire this card, or you're just not interested in this type of game plan, well, let's find out how you could counter it. I've got a few creative counters here, and some of them actually could work with Alioth. Null, for instance, right? You destroy something with Alioth, it could be a big power card and Null's going to get buffed. But if your opponent already established Null, then you destroy things, it's just going to buff the Null even more. So that's why I have Null here. Armor Cosmo, obviously. I mean, you could throw in Professor X there as well as a really good counter, but I feel like setting up Cosmo and Armor is the better course of action. Professor X, like hopefully hitting it on some sort of turn might not be as reliable as you want it to be. Another one is Goose, setting up the Goose, right? Because it's a 6 cost, and then you don't have to worry about that lane anymore. Jean Grey is a card that I think could work with Alioth because, you know, if you've played Jean Grey, your opponent has to play a card there on the final turn. You could Alioth there pretty safely to destroy something. That's pretty good. But on the other side, if your opponent plays Jean Grey and they fill that location, you still have to play cards there. Alioth is a 6 cost card. That's the only card you're going to be playing, and he's going to whiff because that side of the opponent's board is full. There's a bit of a dead card in hand. You're probably not going to play it. So I could see it both working with Alioth and against. And another one is Leader. Leader is actually a really sick counter to Alioth, because here is how I imagine it working, right? So you play Leader. The only way this goes backwards is if Leader is unrevealed and in the Alioth lane, because it's just going to get destroyed and it doesn't matter. But let's say we play the Leader at another location. Well, it's going to summon us an Alioth when it reveals, right? which is going to destroy the opponent's Alioth. That's great. Or what if we have priority and we play leader, which summons Alioth in the same lane as Alioth, and it destroys the unrevealed Alioth that the player wanted to originally play? That would be hilarious. I can't wait for that moment to happen. So I could see leader being a great counter option to Alioth, and it's probably the highest power card they're playing because it's 6 cost. Unless they're somehow got something cheap and there's a bunch of discounts, it's a good shot. That's going to be their highest power card. All right, so here are some of the key synergies and deck lists that I have brewed up. One of them that I have omitted from here that will be in the snap.fan article, definitely go check it out. I'll have the link in the description. It'll be out sometime this weekend, is a destroy list. So just like a basic destroy list that uses like Arnim Zola and Null and whatnot, so that you could play Alioth early, hit Arnim Zola on the Alioth so it duplicates into 2 other locations, destroying a bunch of cards. I think that could be good, but it's a little bit boring. I'm so tired of destroy, so I wanted to focus more on the lockdown type of decks and some of the stronger decks that I think this will be present in, as well as one fun deck. One kind of me, just for fun list. Okay, so we already talked about Galactus being insane, Wave being really good to get Alioth out early, Professor X as a good lockdown option, and Arnim Zola duplicating him, but Kang is another really good card to synergize with Alioth, believe it or not. Yeah, Kang, I know, you never see him. But, I mean, if you know where your opponent's going to play on that final turn because of Kang, it's going to help, make your shot of Alioth that more consistent. I mean, maybe not. You should probably already know where you need to play Alioth to win the game. I don't know if it's ever going to be worth, pairing the two, but hey, information is information and it could help you win a couple cubes. So the deck list that I've come up with here is, the first one on the left there is Berry Control. The reason I'm naming it up for myself really is because I kind of established this like mix with the goblins and whatnot, and Jeff and Destroyer. I had Orca there with Professor X, Atuma. This kind of brew got me to Infinite twice, and I felt like I hadn't really seen it, and then it got popular shortly after by a few bigger names than I. But anyways, I've tweaked it a little bit to make it more Alioth friendly. So I put in Lizard instead of Armored because I want less locations that are protected so Alioth can actually do its thing. And I got Rescue in there, which I think is a little bit spicy, but I really like the line of maybe playing Rescue on 5 into Alioth, or Rescue Hobgoblin, Rescue Professor X. There's a lot of potential there. So yeah, basically you're just looking to control the board, win one lane guaranteed going into that final turn 6 that you can play Alioth and win the game. That is the core concept of the Berry Control list. A very good conquest list, a very good ladder list. I really enjoyed this deck. Then we have Checkmate, and Checkmate is basically what everyone should be a little bit worried about, at least, and that is essentially Galactus plus Alioth. So you got the Wave there, you got Electro, ways to ramp. We also put in Thanos so that there's the Time Stone option and just other cards that we can play if we need a backup option, right? So I got a bunch of cards, we're playing them, we're destroying them with Killmonger and Carnage to get our Null big, but also discount Death. Should be a nice, easy backup plan, but ultimately what we'd like to do is have Alioth, Galactus, and Wave in a different order than that, but just bam, you win the game, right? The biggest downside is, of course, if Galactus doesn't have anywhere to play because your opponent has played high power things. That's going to be a little bit tricky. I thought about putting Forge in here to make a way of Galactus getting bigger, but then it's awkward because you'd usually want to wave before you play Galactus. So maybe that's the downside to this list, but I still see it working out, especially with something like Green Goblin. Maybe you even want to put Hobgoblin. I don't know, but I like just like maybe trying for the Green Goblin, going for the Galactus play until Alioth, and you probably won the game. So that one looks nasty. Maybe you end up cutting the Thanos and the Destroy package. You just go straight Galactus with all those crazy things and ramp and whatever. Maybe a bunch of draw to make it a little bit more consistent. Go for it. I'm sure it'll work out. And then the last list I have here is just for fun. This is just a fun list that, I thought, hey, Alioth is all about figuring out where your opponent's going to play cards. Well, so are the Guardians of the Galaxy. So let's put them all together with our big galaxy brains and win some cubes. So essentially, that's what I've done. We got Rocket Raccoon, Star-Lord, Groot, Drax, Gamora, Alioth. right? All cards that you need to guess where their opponent's going to play. Juggernaut essentially falls under that category, but we have ways to discover. If we want to turn off our galaxy brains for a hot second, we got Kang, we got Daredevil, and we got Jean Grey. A lot of telegraphed opportunities to go, oh yeah, they're probably going to play here. Storm actually falls under that category as well, which is such an easy way to win a lane because you Storm, you Juggernaut, or Drax, and you're good to go. So yeah, I think that'll be pretty fun, but I don't know about how viable it would be. Again, I have a destroy list on snap.fan. There's a lot of other lists, guys. Straight up good card lists. I could see doing very, very well with Alioth, just putting it in there as an option. But yeah, I'm very excited about this card, but is it worth its high price tag? Let's find out if it's a snap or a pass. Shocker, it is a snap. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. This month is a tough month for me to really say pass on any of these cards, but at least I've been saying that for the last month or two that I was saving up for September because I'm really high on a lot of these cards. Even Loki that I said was a snap. I didn't think he'd be as good as he has turned out to be, but hey, there you go. Like worked out, good card. Season pass card always makes it easy to pick up. But Alioth being a Series 5 card, harder to pick up, but just seems very well worth it. I would use Spotlight caches if you have them available, but if you only got tokens, you really want this card, I don't think you'd feel regret picking it up. There's a lot of ways to make use of this card. It has a lot of potential to take over some top tier decks in the meta. I don't know about like the King, but it's going to be up there. So let me know, guys, in the comments below if you're going to pick up Alioth. Snap subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We do this every single new card. We do a little preview to give you guys an idea of the mechanics and whether you should pick up the card or not, because it's important. This game is expensive, so you got to be conservative with your purchases, and if this card is not for you, then just pass on it. It's no big deal. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.